Hello everyone! Today we're going to be making a tarot card pouch. This is a standard size tarot card pouch. And keeping in with the theme that has been going on my TikTok, it's going to be Mothman themed. If you haven't been paying attention to my TikTok, I've been posting quite a bit of Mothman things, such as a cute little Mothman plush written by Riki Gustafson. And then I turned Mothman into an anime girl doll. And the base pattern, like the basic doll pattern, was by Purple Rose 031 on Etsy. So, to start off this pattern, you're going to need your standard H8 or 5mm crochet hook. I'm going to be using some gray yarn as my base, as well as you're going to need some black yarn and some red yarn. You're not going to need too much red yarn, so if you only have a little bit of scraps, that's fine. You are also available to use red felt instead, because the red's just going to be used to make the eyes. From there, you're going to be needing a yarn needle and a pair of scissors. You also may want to do buttons or beads for how we will tie it. It is entirely optional for you. For my case, I'm going to be using wooden beads or wooden buttons, but if you would prefer to do the string method, which I will show you, you are welcome to do that one as well. So, to start this, we're going to be chaining 29. And again, you're going to want to leave like a decent sized tail so you can add it in later. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. So you can already see roughly how long the purse is going to be. And this is for if you're going to put your deck in sideways with the cards facing sideways. The exact measurement here is give or take 8 inches. So the rest of this pattern is going to be fairly simple. First, you're going to do 32 rows of half double crochets. So that is yarn over, starting in the second chain from the hook, insert, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all 3. And you're just going to do that again and again. And when you finish your first row, you are going to chain 1. So at the end of each row, you will be chaining 1 and turning. And you're going to do that for a total of 32 rows. And I will see you when I am there. So after you've done your 32 rows of half double crochets, you should have something that looks kind of like this. I measured it and mine is about an 8 1/4 inch by 12 1/4 inch. So when you get to this point, once again, you're going to chain 1 before beginning your next row, and we're going to turn our work. And then for this next row, what we're going to do is we're going to half double crochet 1, and then we're going to do a decrease. So since this one is a half double crochet pattern, you can just do the regular pull through 1, pull through 1. And then you have something that already looks like a half double crochet, but it's actually 2 stitches into 1. And then you're going to half double crochet until you get to where there are 3 left in your row. because we're going to be mirroring it. Okay, so we now have 3 left. So once again, we're going to be doing the half double crochet decrease. So insert hook through first stitch, loop over, pull through, insert hook through second stitch, loop over, pull through, yarn over, yarn over, and pull through all 3. And then we're going to end it with 1 more half double crochet and another chain 1. At this point, you should have 26 stitches, and you are going to do that exact row up until you have 2 stitches left. It should be approximately 13 rows. So you're going to do 1 half double crochet, 1 decrease, go all the way until you have 3 stitches left, do your half double crochet decrease, do another half double crochet, and chain 1. And then you're going to do that all the way. When you have 4 stitches left, you will just do 2 decreases. I will come back and show you when we get to the 4 stitches left. But until then, for, I guess it would be 12 rows, do 1 half double crochet, decrease, all the way half double crochet until you get to the very end, do a half double crochet, decrease, and then a half double crochet. So you should now have 4 stitches left. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's my chain. So turn over, and we're going to do 2 decreases. So in through the hook, or in through the loop, yarn over, pull through, in through, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through all, insert, yarn over, pull through, insert, yarn over, pull through. And now we can go ahead and cut this because we're done. You don't need to leave a long tail. It will be worked in later. Okay. So you should have something that looks kind of like this. The next step is going to be using stitch markers, but you can use scraps of yarn. I actually prefer to use scraps of yarn because it helps repurpose my scraps as well as save me money on stitch markers because I lose my stitch markers all the time. So instead I use yarn. So what you're going to do is you're going to find that last row you did before you started decreasing. And you should be able to find it pretty easy. Right there's what a decrease looks like right in that area. So you can just go down and find it, or you can always count to 32. But what you're going to do after you have found your decrease, the row where your decrease started, is you're going to go to the row before it, your last row of half double crochets, and you're going to put your stitch marker there. So mine is right here. This is my last row. You can tell because this is the first decrease. So you're going to insert a hook if you're using the yarn method, or you could just use a stitch marker, but insert your hook. Take one of your yarn scraps, pull the end through, and then you can either leave it, or I like to tie a very loose knot. That way I have it marked. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. You can either follow the line, or you could just look and find it. But you're going to insert your hook and pull pull through. And now we're going to take the bottom and fold it up to that row, so this row, your first row, matches up with this row right here. Alright, then you're going to go to the row there on the bottom, and you're going to again put in a little stitch marker. Okay, so after you have all of those, you now know where your back of your pouch is going to be. So all of this right here is where you can put your designs, whatever designs you want. For this particular one, we're going to be doing a Mothman motif. So I'm actually going to be doing a silhouette of Mothman. But really you could do whatever design here you wanted. I've got plenty of ones where I did like a starry sky here. It's again whatever you want to put. I've also done the phases of the moon on the back. You could do a giant pinnacle. Really whatever suits your specific needs and tastes. But you can go ahead and set this to the side if you're doing the Mothman one. And here's just a little bit of a preview of how it's going to look, by the way. Not quite fully there, but this is roughly what it's going to look like when we're done. We're also going to be adding some decorations on the side and everything else, but you now have a vague idea. So if you're doing Mothman, you're going to take whatever color you're using. I'm using black, and start from there. Continuing with the size 5 hook, you're going to do 6 single crochet in a magic circle. So that's, take your yarn, wrap it around your 2 fingers like this, go up under the loop, grab that yarn, pull through, and do 1 chain. And then you're going to do 6 single crochet into this loop. Okay, after you've done 6 and you've tightened your magic circle, you're going to come over and slip stitch into your first single crochet and chain 1. Now we're going to increase in all of the stitches, so you should have 12 stitches left, but that's basically just putting 2 single crochets in each stitch for a total of 12 stitches. And as you work, just include your tail in, so that way you don't have to sew it in later. So pretty much you're just going to sit your tail top of your stitches, and you're just going to work it just like you would if it was a part of your stitches. Now at this point I have quite a bit left over, so I'm actually just going to go ahead and snip that. And I do actually save all of my yarn scraps, no matter what length they are, because if I don't use them as stitch markers or similar things, then I use them as stuffing for my plush. And you can either cut them up into little pieces or brush them out or just use them as is. So once you get to this part, once again, you're going to go to your first single crochet and you're going to slip stitch and chain 1. Now we're going to do 2 single crochet in the first stitch, and we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch, 2 single crochet in the third stitch, and then 1 single crochet in the last stitch. And then we're actually going to chain 1 instead of going around the rest of the circle. Then we're going to turn our work and we're going to do single crochet across 4 rows, 4 through 7. So 4, 5, 6, 7. That's 4 rows of single crochet. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, not counting the circle bit. Now we're going to decrease, and I'm going to use the invisible decrease here, so using the back loops only to decrease. Then we're going to single crochet 2 stitches and decrease again. Chain 1, and then we're gonna single crochet across. And chain 1. So, your body's gonna look something like this. If you really want to, you could leave it here if you're looking for something more jagged. But I would like to smooth out my ends, so I'm actually going to single crochet all the way across the entire thing. When you cut to these corners, you're gonna wanna put at least 2 single crochet in them. You are welcome to put 3 if you feel more comfortable putting 3, but I'm just going to put 2. Once you have done around the border, you're going to slip stitch into that first single crochet once again, and it should look something like this. Now you're going to want to cut off a relatively long tail because you are going to be sewing on both the body and the wings using this piece. So fasten off, and at this point you can go ahead and embroider on your eyes. It's now time to embroider the eyes. I'm going to be using red for classic Mothman style. So I'm going to be picking a stitch between the first and second rows of my circle, inserting, and then picking a hole like right above that one. And then I'm just gonna go through those 2 a couple times. But you don't want to pull it too tight, because if you do that, that's going to shrink your eyes. And the point of you going over it a couple times is to make them like bigger. But I think 2 is enough for this one. And then you're gonna go over to, oops, the other side, and you're gonna do pretty much the same thing. You're gonna try to line them up as best as you can and do the same thing. It's okay if they're a little crooked. He can just be tilting his head. So we have these. This, like I said, in this one he's tilting his head, so when we embroider on the antenna later, I'm going to put them a little bit sideways, so that way in this one he's turning his head. Now I left the tail here so that way I can make it really easy on myself and just tie a couple of knots, excuse me. I like to do 3 or 4 knotting just to make sure. And you don't actually need to sew anything in on this one, just trim your tails really short, because when we sew it on to our bag, we can hide it. We can just push it down like this and hide it so it's not seen. Onto the wings. So you can go ahead and set your main body silhouette aside, come back to your black yarn, and we're gonna start the wings now. You're gonna be making 2 of these. So with your size 5 hook, we're gonna chain 4, and you can leave whatever size tail you want. It will be worked in, trying to get a good size, it will be worked in or sewn in to the wing or the body to hide it. So you just want it to be long enough that you can hide it. We're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the second chain from the hook, we're going to single crochet. And we're going to do that across this row. So we'll have 3 stitches, 3 single crochet. Chain 1 and do the same thing. We're going to single crochet across. And I will go ahead and say right now that the wings, the technique that I'm using, I got from the Crochet World of Creepy Creatures and Cryptids, I believe is what it's called, by Riki Gustafson. This is not the pattern that she uses, but she does use this technique. So you're going to chain 3, and then we're going to single crochet starting in the second chain from the hook and across. And this is like the thing she does. She chains and then single crochets to make it look like feathers, and I like that. Again, this isn't her exact pattern. It's actually fairly different, but the technique of adding chains and then single crocheting down them is similar. So now we're going to single crochet 3. Remember to chain 1 at the beginning of this row. After we're at this point, we are going to chain 3 again and single crochet in the second one from the hook and across. And chain 1. Well, I just dropped everything. I need to get a yarn caker thing so that way I can make my yarn into cakes. So after you have gotten to this point, we're actually going to chain a second one. So you'll have 2 chains instead of 1. And you're going to single crochet in that second chain from the hook and in the next 3 stitches. So you have a total of 4 stitches. So you have something that looks like this. Then we're going to chain 2 and go in the second one, second chain from the hook, and all the way across. Chain one, and you have something that looks like this, and now we're going to single crochet across the top of your wings. And now you're going to cut off a pretty decent sized tail because you're going to be sewing your wings onto the body. Don't forget to also work in this tail into your wing or your body. We now need to make a second wing, and I will come back after doing that. So you finished both of your wings. It is now time to attach them to the body, and this is what it's going to look like after they've been attached to the body. So first things first, threading your needle. And when it comes to attaching the wings, it's actually pretty easy. So you're going to start right at one of these two. I usually go for this one. But it's either the first or second row that isn't in your circle. Or pretty much right where the body starts to curve. So insert, go ahead, pull on through. And then from there, it's just lining up the wing with the body. So for the body, I pretty much do it with like that stitch. So I just put it through the stitch. And then I find the closest part, or like the bottom of the unused loops of your chain. And I just pull through. And you're just going to be sewing them on. Pretty much just like this. If you have a different method, that's fine too. You can pretty much attach it any way that you attach granny squares together, because we're applying the same concept here. That is my cat. I'll be right back. My cat is screaming. Sorry about that. My cat likes to talk to me. So, to finish it up, enter in through the wing again, and then you're going to tie off a knot, pretty much like how you would in any other sewing project. And you can either leave it off and hide it when you sew it onto the thing, or you can go ahead and weave it in a little bit. I'm gonna weave mine in, but you don't have to do it like, you don't have to be as precise as if it was a blanket or something like that. I just want mine to be not sticking out. And you're going to do the same thing for the other wing, starting about right there and just sew it on. Alright, the little Mothman dude is done. This next part is entirely optional, but I actually want to put something on my flap because this piece is going on my back. So I'm going to make one of these to go on my flap. It is just a pentacle. You are welcome to do it or not to do it, but I will now show you how to in case you do want to do it. So we're going to start with a magic circle, and we are once again going to single crochet 6 into it, Then we're going to do what we did before, slip stitch into your first single crochet, and chain 1. Make sure it's tight, your magic circle. Then we're going to increase, so single stitch, or 2 single crochet in every single stitch. You'll have 12 stitches. Slip stitch into your first single crochet, chain 1, and then we're going to do 2 single crochet in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and we're going to do that around. Now we're going to slip stitch, and we're going to fasten off, leaving a long tail to sew on. Next we're going to embroider a star on there, and it's pretty simple. Make sure you have plenty of thread. I would always much rather have more thread than less, because I can always use my scraps for something else. So, I want this knot to be about the point of my star, and you're gonna work not quite on the edge there, but actually like in the stitch, like you do for your hook. So I'm gonna do about 3 or 4 from my fasten off point, and make sure you leave a long enough tail to tie knots. And then I'm going to put this across here to let me know where I need to put it. I'm actually going to turn mine a little bit. I think I like that position better. So I'll go into this chain, and you're going to go to your bottom point, and we'll do there, and take it on up to the top. Go back over here to where you have your line at. Here we go. Make sure you're not sewing in your fasten off tail, and then go into where your point is. Then I'm gonna go back up here to start creating my last point. Let's see, I want it to be about right there. And there we go. Now I have a nice little star pinnacle. And then I'm going to tie the back here. And cut it pretty short. Because again, I'm going to hide this like this. The next portion is going to be sewing on your Mothman, and if you added the pinnacle, your pinnacle onto your So I'm going to start with my little pinnacle here, just because it's going to be a little bit easier. So you're going to go to your flap area, and you're going to figure out where you want yours to go. I want mine to go about in the center, so like this. And reminder that it does need to be this way, because when it's folded over, this is the position it'll be in. So if you sew it a different way, it'll be upside down. Make sure I don't have any tails there. If you want, you can pin it in. Sometimes I pin down stuff, sometimes I don't. I think I'll go ahead and pin it this time just to be safe. I don't pin things like a normal person though. I just kind of stick them in there when it comes to crochet anyway. Ow, I stabbed myself. Whoopsies. But yeah, now I'm just pinning it down. That's about where I want it. Once again, just double checking, making sure that that's about where I want it. That's pretty centered. And then I'm going to start sewing. I believe this is just called the whip stitch. Okay, if you don't want this little knot there, or if you do have that knot there and you don't want it there, you're going to pull up and actually insert your needle through it. Pull all the way through, and then you're going to do it again, and this time when you do it, so pull through again. And this time when you do it, actually go back into your work. There we go. And I wanted mine to have like a hand stitched look to it, so that's why I did this. There's several different options if you don't want that look. You can always just go through the chains and not actually the outer edge of the pouch. You could glue it on, you could sew it on with thread. There's several different ways. Really, it's just whatever you want, however you want it to look. So then you gotta end it. So I'm gonna go to the closest loop to it, pull through, push it through, and then I've made a loop here. And I'm going to tighten that loop while leaving another loop, and then I'm going to go through the second loop and go ahead and close it and get it as tight as I can. Then to hide that knot, you're going to go between the between your pinnacle and between your pouch, and you're just going to put the thread through there, push your needle through, and pull it taut and snap. And now that's hidden in there, and you have a nice design. So the reason why we put our stitch markers there is so we know where the bottom of our pouch is when we close it and make it into an actual pouch. And the reason why is because, and it's again optional, you can put your Mothman wherever you want, but I want him to be on the bottom, like he's flying upwards. So I know that this here is my bottom row, so I will bring my Mothman's line right there. And then I'm going to center it the best that I can. That looks about centered. So now that I know where I want the bottom to be, I can go ahead and pin that bottom. Alright, so I have my bottom pinned, and I can now start placing the pins for the rest of the body. So my wings, I actually want to, I'll do the head first. I'll do the head first so that way I have it anchored. But my wings, I actually want to curve them upwards a little bit so you can really see the feathers. So I'm going to just do this. So I'll pin one here at the base of the wing. Come on. There we go. So pin the base of the wing. And then I'm going to fold it out the way I want it to be, like this. And I'm going to pin up here at the top. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other wing. So pin the base of the wing. And curl my wing, fold my wing out. There we go. He's not quite centered, but that's fine. Sorry if you have OCD and that bothers you, or if you have something else and that bothers you. But I think he looks cute. So obviously the next step is sewing him on, once you've pinned him on. And again, if you don't want to pin, that's fine. You can actually use your yarn needles as pins. If you need to, really anything works. But just go on through and sew him on. Now I don't want him to actually have the stitched in look. I want him to look like Mothman. So I am just working through the stitches. So inserting through the stitch downward. Oh no, I made a mistake. Which those happen sometime, actually all the time. If you make a mistake, that's fine. You can just pull out your stitches or frog it or whatever and try again. It's like good old Bob Ross said, there are no mistakes, just happy little accidents. Okay, there we go. So come up from the bottom there, and then go into my next one. Now that I've finished sewing my Mothman on, it is time to finish it. To secure the knot. So once again, I'm going to be going under the nearest loop and kind of making like a slip knot. Tightening it, and then we are going to be weaving between the body and the pouch. It is now time to sew on the antenna. So I have had a pretty long tail. I'm going to go ahead and use that for the first one. I want my antenna to line up with my eyes, to be like right above the eyes. So I'm going to have one here going in this way and one here going this way. So I'm going to start with that one. I'm going to come up from the back here. Oops. Oh no, it slipped out of my needle. I'm gonna have to use the other end because my end is coming apart. Alright. Slip in here from the back. Make sure to hold enough to tie a knot and also enough to actually hide it. So then we're going to come out, I don't know, I'm gonna do about a stitch's length. Maybe a little bit more. Come back in, so you have that first line, and then I'm going to go right next to it. And you're pretty much going to do what you did with the eyes and just go over it a couple times. And that's the first antenna. And if you want them to be longer, feel free to make them longer. It doesn't really matter. It's all personal preference. And then since my ends are both frayed, I'm just going to take my hook, go in between the two, and pull them through. So that's my first antenna. It's not very long, but that's fine. I don't need a long one. And then I'm going to grab my bag of scrap yarn here. Let's see, I know I have much longer threads than that. Here we go. I'm going to use this one for my second antenna. So again, going right above the eye, making sure to keep enough room to tie, and going on in. I actually don't like that position, so I'm going to redo it. There we go. I like that a lot better. So, gonna go through a couple times again. To do the border, you're gonna start with a slip knot, slip knot. Insert your hook into one of your corners. and you're basically going to be single crocheting. So pull through and wrap, and then chain and then chain one. And now you're going to do 4 double crochets into that same spot. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull through the first 2 loops, pull through the last 2 loops. For a total of 4 times. And that chain and single stitch does count as your first double crochet in this case. So you're gonna have 4 actual double crochets and 1 chain / single crochet. And then you're going to skip 1 row and go into the next one, and you're going to slip stitch. Oops. So you have a ruffle. Then you will be skipping yet another row and going into your next one, doing 5 double crochets. I don't know why my hook is suddenly catching light, but you're going to do 5 double crochets. All in the same area, 5 double crochets. Then I just kind of like to pull a little bit to help hide my tail. And you're gonna continue that pattern all the way around your entire border. And as you go, make sure you weave in your tails. So once again, that is skip a row, in the next row, slip stitch, and then skip a row, and in the next row do 5 double crochets. I believe this is called the shell stitch or a shell border. And then we will come back after you finish that. When you get to the end of your flap here, you might come into a bit of a bump where you don't, if you put a shell here or here, it's going to be crooked. So what I'm going to do is I slip stitch into the first one, then I'm going to double crochet 2 into this first stitch, and 3 into the second one. Whoops. Also, I apologize if you hear slamming in the background. My neighbor is working on their car. Then I'm going to slip stitch back into the same one that I did the 3 double crochet in. So now I have an even bump here. Then continuing, skip 1 row, go to the next row, and do 5 double crochets into that row. So when it comes to your last one, and I did my best here to try and like align my frills. I don't know if they're completely even, but I did do my best to do that. But when it comes to the last one, instead of doing 5 double crochet, you're gonna do 4, and then you're gonna chain 2 and slip stitch in slip stitch in there, so that way it sort of mirrors this one. And then from there, you're gonna cut a decent tail. You don't need a long one, just long enough to weave it in. And you're going to fasten off here. Fasten off and weave in your tail. And then once you've got that weaved in, go ahead and just snip it. And you now have the bulk of your pouch done. So you have your nice little pouch. It's time to come up with how you're going to fasten it closed. There's a couple different options. You could always Velcro, so put Velcro here and here. You could crochet 2 really long chains or just 1 really long chain and attach it here and make it so it wraps around a couple times and you can tie it off. Or you can do magnets or clasps, but I'm gonna do the button method. So basically, I'm going to make a small chain right here that's big enough for my button to enter. So you're going to want to leave a decent sized tail when you make your slip knot so you can weave in that in. And then I'm going to go 1, 2 into the second double crochet in the shell on my end, and I'm going to slip stitch in, and then you're going to chain a decent amount. It really depends on how big your button is. So what I do is I chain a couple and then I tentatively slip stitch in. So you don't want to cut off yet. You're going to check to see, can your button make it through there? And mine can. So I did, let's see here, 1, 2, 3. I did about 4 chains, I believe. And then you're going to slip stitch into, you're going to skip a double crochet and you're going to slip stitch into the 4th one in your shell. And we're going to fasten off and weave in those ends as per usual. Now it is time to sew on my button. So I'm going to fold it over and place it the way I want it to be. And then I'm going to look where my fastener is and I'm going to put the button right there. And I'm going to sew it on and then I'll be back. Alrighty, I finished sewing on that button. Now just to make sure everything fits. The button fits, I'm just struggling. Alright, there we go. And now you have a Mothman pouch. A nice little, you could use it as a tarot card bag. You could always add a strap and make it into a purse. You'd use it as a pincho pouch, but if you do that, I do recommend that you add lining. And everything looks nice and neat in there. Sorry, buttons. Buttons sometimes are a little hard for me. I have carpal tunnel in my left wrist, so sometimes I struggle with buttons. But anyway, that is how you make your Mothman tarot card pouch, and I will be seeing you guys in the next episode.